Act 1, Scene 1, 1969. Martinstown House. Marian sits, waiting. She is nervous and wants to make a good impression. It has been a long time. Ilse enters. She is in the middle of packing up the house ahead of the sale and loaded down.
Well, look at you.
Hi, how are you? Do you need me to help with?
No, you're just earlier than I expected, which means I can put all this down. I hope you don't mind that it looks like a warehouse in here.
Of course not. Not at all.
I do. But thankfully it's an intermediate phase. In 8 days it will seem like we were never here, and we can be completely forgotten. But still, what a modern young woman you've become.
Thank you, but it's just clothes.
Not just. I wrote to you at your, chambers?
Close enough.
A fully qualified barrister. I can tell you I never dreamt of such a thing.
No, suppose you didn't.
Of course, the expectations were very different from me, but you're too young to understand that kind of thing.
Not that young.
As you get older, my dear, you'll find it comforting to have a more flexible definition of the word.
I'll bear that in mind.
And engaged too, I see.
Yes. It's still new, catching my eye all the time.
So, is it...
No, that didn't work out. We went separate ways.
Probably for the best.
I like to think so.
I was surprised how little your uncle could tell me about you.
Since all of that, we don't speak so often, or at all. And we were never close, so.
How is Deirdre? Thriving, I hope.
I don't know. She doesn't. I haven't heard from her in. It's been actual years. I hope she's married, and that's why I haven't been able to find her in the phone book, but.
Or she doesn't want to be found. It's much easier to get yourself well and truly lost than you might think. Otto could tell you.
He was never tempted to settle in Argentina.
Not seriously, no. And after Perón fell, it wasn't a serious possibility. Honestly, of all the things he's had to leave behind over the years, I think it's the sheep flock here that upset him the most.
He spent a lot of time on it.
It was very wholesome to see him so dedicated, but I'm not convinced he ever understood even the basic principles. The farmers here were too kind to say so, of course, but they'd get this pained expression in their face whenever he started talking to them about it. Anyway, we sold the flock, and Otto may not be glad, but I am.
Animal husbandry still not to your taste, then?
I've no fondness for what people call a healthy agricultural smells, and I always preferred goats anyway.
It's a shame you have to sell the place, though.
Yes, I'm going to miss it here. Though I don't have to give it up.
I thought they'd refused permission for you to stay.
For Otto, we were given to understand that my sole application might be looked on more favorably.
It's unusual for a husband and wife to be treated separately.
Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, yes. I must have made a good impression on someone. And perhaps it helps that I never volunteered to wear a uniform with a swastika on it.
Probably would, yeah.
Otto was so sure they would change their minds, it didn't matter what I said. He kept saying how much you hate the English.
Sometimes the only way to tell men the truth is to let them think it was their idea.
Enjoy being a lawyer, are you? I did warn him. When both the Americans and the British objected to having a former Nazi hanging around like the last wisp of an old fart, it was never a winnable position.
Even more so now.
You mean the European economic whatever it is? That had crossed my mind.
They're talking about it. At least people are talking about it more seriously than before, but who really knows? If the Brits don't go in.
Is it your Liam who tells you these things?
No. He's not in a fit state for that.
It's a shame, really. You don't know what you have here. And when the whole world becomes worldwide world, oh, and the whole wide world comes in and everything changes, it will be too late.
I don't know. It seems to me we have an awful lot to learn.
Did Mr. Cooper rub off on you at long last? He'd be so pleased. He's not...
No. And also no. I didn't mean from him or England. I don't suppose you've seen the news about what's going on in Derry.
Dreadful business. It never ends well. What do they even have to fight about?
How long have you got? Anyway, I don't think that's where we need to look at lessons on how to build a better society.
And it's barely even another country. So where will you be looking?
There's talk, some very vague, undecided, probably will come to nothing talk about a commission on the status of women in law. They've asked me to help research an important precedents and so on.
Oh, and here I thought you meant real politics, not half-hearted proposal on deserted wives.
It's a start.
You don't want to get mixed up in that kind of nonsense. Those women are always cranks.
Then I'll fit right in.
You are far too young and pretty to ruin your reputation by tying yourself in knots over spoilt women.
I'm not that young.
You enjoy denying it too much to be anything but. Well, perhaps we're packing up at the right time. Another 5 years and Ireland might not suit us at all. But it is a shame.
You didn't consider keeping it just for yourself?
Oh, I thought about it. The time I spent making that walled garden. But you know him. Otto is not the kind of man who can be married full time, all the year round. So keeping a place to be just mine definitely has its appeal, but...
You didn't approve?
No. He can run away from me as much as he pleases, but I am never to do the same to him, unless it's going to Paris to style myself for his approval. Now, I hope you came hungry.
I'm really fine, you don't have to.
None of that nonsense of saying no. For a few days more, at least, this is a German house. That means we have cake, and we expect people to eat it.
Act 1, Scene 2, 1960, the gatehouse. Marian enters, leading Liam. She kisses him.
Don't shoot. Your uncle won't like that.
Then it's very good for him. He's lost somewhere between here and Vienna.
Kisses
Wait,
again.
Vienna? Vienna?
The Skorzenys, the colonel, really. He says that since they're settling down here,
He said that.
you know they have an application in for residency. Anyway, he wants things from the old family home, furniture and paintings, and since he can't go there himself.
Your uncle doesn't even speak German?
We did mention that when they were planning it, but Colonel was determined. There's some portrait of his mother he wants back, so... Anyway, he left yesterday. He was getting the ferry to Wales and then driving from there, and he's gonna be gone for nearly 2 weeks.
Oh.
So we're all alone. No uncles or cousins or anyone to spy on us.
That's why you asked me to drive you back.
Maybe.
Marian.
There's no one to disapprove or glare, and we're all alone in a house with multiple beds and a sofa.
You've thought about this a lot.
I have to do something with all the nights I spend here by myself, and I like to be prepared.
Exactly how prepared?
I just meant there's no reason we can't do things.
What kind of things?
I don't know. We could find out together.
Marian. It'll be worth it in the end, you know that.
But it would be fun now. You never want to do anything. Why aren't you like the rest of... Isn't me? I could do something different if that's what... Just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it.
You are the only girl I ever want. The only one I ever thought about. But we just have to wait. Come here. Aren't you going to be lonely here by yourself?
That's why I wanted you to stay.
You know I have to work. Give me a smile.
They're coming back tomorrow, so I won't be completely alone.
Now, how would that have worked? You know they don't like me hanging around.
They're having some big party as well, so it's going to be busy.
See, you'll have no time to. I'll be lucky to even get you on the phone every night
I would never miss it when you call.
because you want to hear where they're sending me.
Us? Maybe we'll get Paris or Rome.
Or Birmingham. Don't get your hopes up.
That's what hopes are supposed to be. Up! What's wrong with wanting something more exotic than Kildare?
Speaking of that, there is something you can do that could maybe speed all that up.
What? Anything. I can't wait to get out of here.
I need you to introduce someone to them. Sorry, I mean, there's a new one in at the English embassy.
And you what?
I was just a junior diplomat, a few years older than me, and so desperate to advance and be sent somewhere else he can smell it of. And ever since Eichmann was snatched, he's got all wound up about Nazis living in Ireland, evading justice and poisoning the good people of Kildare with the plague of fascism. And for the purposes of shutting him up, I want him to come down here, be introduced, and see that they're not what he imagines. With luck, they'll be so boring he'll go away, but it's better if it's informal. So
you want me to arrange it?
you never know, it might help. And then we get to go somewhere better than I expected. America, maybe, or Australia.
Of course, I'll do it, and I'll make a good impression. Doll myself up even if I have to.
No.
No.
You're perfect just as you are. You don't need any of that. I've told you and told you. He's very dashing. You'll like him. I almost like him, even if he is English.
You're really going to have to get over that. You're going to have to talk to them eventually. What if you get sent to London?
I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I should get back.
It's like you're allergic to spending more than an hour outside Pale.
You're exaggerating again. We'll call you tomorrow night.
Okay.
They kiss quickly.
Bye.
Liam leaves. She slumps, disappointed.
I thought he'd never leave. What were you two doing all this?
Deirdre?
Yes?
You're in Chicago.
You shouldn't leave the back door open.
What happened to your hair?
Are you alone?
Yeah, is that how nurses wear it in?
Nurses? That's what he told you?
Your dad, yeah,
Is he here?
No, he's gone for the next week at least.
You're sure? You're certain? He's definitely not going to walk back in because he's forgotten his gloves or something.
It's June and he's in another country by now.
You know, I think you're lucky both yours are dead. A nurse in Chicago. That's what he told you.
I'm guessing that was a lie.
Obviously. You can't tell anyone I'm here.
Why not? Did you rob a bank or something?
Would I look like this if I robbed a bank?
I don't know what's fashionable in Chicago. He told me you left with Eamon.
With my brother. And you never wondered why I didn't tell you or write or...
Because you've always liked me so much.
I'd have told you.
It was term time and I was in Dublin for college. He said it came up all of a sudden. What happened?
You can't tell.
I won't.
When Eamon came back, you know, he came back for a holiday or something.
Yeah, I didn't. I couldn't get down to see him.
Well, he kept saying how much I'd grown. Like it was a surprise. I wasn't still 7 years old. My dad, he said he was having a tough time and I shouldn't ask questions. So I just went to school and cleaned up and did what they told me. Then one night, Eamon he was drunk. I think he was very drunk. And he wanted to play the game. You remember
No.
how he used to make us...
That was just kid stuff. That wasn't...
I hated it. You hated it.
Because girls hate boys' games. It's not the same as...
I remember you telling him. You told him and he made you do it anyway. Remember?
No.
I was just trying to go to bed. To close the door, you know, leave him to... But maybe he wasn't that drunk. Maybe it was all pretend, because he grabbed my hands and I had bruises after, but Dad didn't care about that. He just He came back and he saw what Eamon was doing, and he didn't speak to me for a week. And then one day, right after school, he took me there. I was still wearing my school uniform.
Where?
10 miles down the road, give or take. Washing clothes and shirts and stockings and underwear and nappies and sheets and washing and washing and washing and washing, and none of it ever comes clean. They're all mad there. See, you think madness is a person in a straitjacket running into walls and making messes all over themselves, but
But that's not mad.
it's not the real thing. The real thing is when the routine, the things that must be done every day, today and tomorrow and yesterday, when ceilings on fire or the rooms full of screaming, when it's a comfort to do the things you have to do, a relief to be ordered.
Please, you have never let anyone tell you what to do in your life.
You're the first person to use my name in 3 years. They didn't let me talk, let anyone talk. And they don't use your names, so you know each other by standing day after day in line together, till I knew the shape of her eyebrows and the pattern of her freckles and the scars on her hands better than my own.
Who's she? Who are you talking about?
No one. She's gone now. I don't know her name. You promise you won't tell anyone I'm here? Not even the guards?
Why would the...
I saw them do it. There was this one girl. She was smart enough to make a run for it. She was gone for nearly a whole day, and then they brought her back, same way you'd bring a horse to the knacker's yard. You won't tell?
I won't say a word.
Act 1, Scene 3, 1969, Martinstown House.
So, how do you find it, being in court?
It's not easy.
Do you have to wear one of those fossilized looking wigs?
Yes, but with that and the gown, I almost fit in with the rest of the fossils.
Can't be easy to get your hair under it.
No, but as problems go, it's a nice one to have.
I had to cut mine short during the war. And then, of course, later, some girls had the idea it would make them look like boys and no one would know. The Russians wouldn't be able to tell, and then it would all stop.
Did that work?
Maybe, for some. Fortunately, it was the Americans who liberated me. He's American, the man buying the house. They're the only ones who have the money these days, especially with the roof likely to cave in at any moment. He warned them, but he's reclaiming his roots.
He's from Kildare.
No, he's from somewhere very American. But his grandfather or great-grandmother is from here, or maybe it was both.
What was the name?
Boots? No, I'm sure that's wrong. In any case, I highly doubt he has any blood connection to the Dukes of Leinster.
Didn't you used to tell people he'd built this house for his mistress? It could have been a productive relationship.
And any bastards would have been discreetly farmed out, not kept in this kind of luxury. They'd only have got in the way. It's possible. And sad people always want some aristocratic and Hollywood colorful past to connect to, not the disappointing, muddy reality. After all, isn't that why you're here?
You invited me.
I wanted to see what you'd made of yourself after so long. But you didn't have to come.
It's the last chance, though.
And since Deirdre isn't coming back, you want to remember. Your uncle's rather forlorn about it. All his children have been swallowed up by America, he says.
And whose fault is that? If he wanted her to stay, he always had the option of not giving her to the...
All parents fail their children. Yours died.
A car accident and TB are not the same as...
Do you really think? If he got down on his knees and begged forgiveness, if he died tomorrow, do you think she would come back?
He wouldn't. And if? No. He's not the only one who... I got her out in the end, but I didn't believe her.
Because it was so fantastic? If she was lying so much, why help her?
Punishment didn't fit the crime.
But was she lying?
No. I never told anyone, but I knew exactly what she was talking about. I just buried it. That game she said Eamon forced her to. He'd done it to me years before when I was 8, 9 years old. He used to make me touch him. I didn't know how to tell him to stop in a way that meant he had to listen. Then I got a little older. He started doing it to her and she hated it too. And I was relieved because it wasn't just me anymore. And then not long after, he went to America and stayed. So since I didn't have to see him, and I just stopped thinking about it. Things like that don't happen, you see.
Except, of course, they do.
I've done a lot of family law cases since, and you hear things. No one wants to talk about it. So when Deirdre said what had happened, I knew it couldn't happen. I said she was mistaken or lying or mad, and that was what I told everyone.
And now you believe her and carry her around with you every day like your very own ghost?
Well, it's not like I can tell her. I don't even know if she's alive. She's qualified as a nurse, I know that much, and then she moved to London and that's it.
Otto would admire her for hiding herself so effectively, you know. None of his friends ever learned to keep out of sight. They're thinking of painting the house yellow. To cheer things up, make it look like a place people want to visit. Amazing what a dab of paint can cover up, isn't it?
Act 1, Scene 4, 1960, outside Martinstown House.
I don't know what you're expecting. He's not some raging fascist. I don't know.
We're just going to pause there. Will, we can't hear you. Do you want to put yourself on mute and back on again? Great. From the top.
I don't know what you're expecting, but he's not some raging fascist.
And I'm sorry to disappoint, but he most certainly is.
He's a gentleman, not some...
Oh, you can't possibly be that sheltered.
I don't know about that, but I know him, which you don't, so maybe you should listen to me.
All right then. He's kind to you. Stranger things have been true from time to time. Even monsters must have some charm.
I won't introduce you if you're going to speak to him like...
I can be a gentleman too, I promise. You'll be amazed how well I carry it off.
Will I?
So, tell me, how are they kind?
Well, they're having this big party and they want me to go because they know I get lonely.
Oh, so you'll be at the big shindig. You know it's just a past it old men and women with their eyes glazed over, all pretending that talking about the good old days doesn't make them sad.
But I don't speak German, so it won't matter if they're boring.
I do. But I think you wouldn't like it if I told you what they were really saying. And I'm not invited anyway. All I need is the introduction, and then I'll be out of your hair.
They won't be happy to see you.
I'll take it as a compliment, I promise.
Do you know he met Evita?
He didn't just meet her.
Yes, I know that.
Did that make you tongue-tied?
It's not the kind of thing you say around here.
Do they not have sex in Kildare?
What do you think?
Well, it would be a terrible shame if you didn't. No point in wasting your sweetness in desert air.
I'm not sweet.
Really?
Marian?
Frau Skorzeny, I thought you were delayed.
No, it's just that as soon as we got out of the car, Otto started a conversation about sheep, so naturally I took the very first opportunity to escape.
Very wise, ma'am.
But I'm afraid you have me at a loss.
This is Mr. Cooper from the...
I work for the British government.
And how wonderful to find you here in Kildare, of all places.
He's a friend of Liam's, and...
And my ambassador asked me to come.
I see. And what a pleasant way for you to spend a summer afternoon.
Indeed. But I was hoping to have a word with you and your husband, Mr. Skorzeny.
Countess.
I beg your pardon?
I don't usually insist on it. The Irish are Republican people after all, but since you're not, If you're going to question me, you can at least remember my title.
My apologies, ma'am. I wasn't aware the Colonel had been...
The Colonel? Am I so insufficiently interesting in my own right? So you are fully informed my husband, the most dangerous sheep farmer in Europe, is a commoner. You'll know what that means, even if Marian doesn't, and therefore it seems a small thing to ask that you respect my rank.
Perhaps it's that I've started to go native.
More Irish than the Irish themselves? No.
Still, we're always glad to host a dashing young man. From the embassy, my husband seems to collect them. Everywhere he goes, they spring up like weeds. Don't blame me if he locks you in the cellar.
That must be due to your excellent English. Expats get very lonely.
And how is your German, Mr. Cooper? It's a wonderful language, inventive in a way English just can't touch. Marian here has picked up a few phrases from us, but I would expect an embassy man to be fluent. Are you finished with the Supreme Unified Sheep strategy?
Don't pretend to be interested. There's a small flock for sale a few towns over, so...
I sense a thrilling excursion in our future.
I want them settled in by the end of the summer, but who is...
A man from the British Embassy. Isn't it a lovely surprise, again?
I had understood that you were not legally resident in...
I may call a house which I own my home, may I not? Legal matters aside.
Why are you here?
I don't want to offend.
Answer the question.
I have been asked. The ambassador asked me to.
Oh, are you following orders?
Colonel, I'm here to inform you that Her Majesty's government is aware of, and of course highly interested, in your presence here.
In Ireland?
In Era, yes. Of course, we respect the borders of our neighbours, but you may nonetheless be assured that we have taken, and will naturally continue to take, the most careful note of your presence here. Ireland has always been very dear to our hearts.
It's all the sheep farming, dear. It caught their eye.
Ma'am, you must understand, with the articles in this week's papers, we're concerned, as I imagine the Irish government, with your plans for...
What articles?
I was going to tell you once Eichmann was captured in South America.
So, everyone on the planet has probably heard that by now.
There was an interview. He gave an interview and...
He said my name. Of course he did, the little worm.
That wasn't all. He mentioned any number of names, but...
It also says that both of you visited him in 47 and that the colonel helped him to escape to Spain and then on to, I think it was Argentina.
And that Mrs. Skorzeny was a great source of comfort to the Eichmanns in their time of trouble, which was very kind of you, I'm sure.
Far be it from me to interrupt your opportunity to feel morally superior, but I wasn't Mrs. Skorzeny then. We were living in sin, quite a lot of sin, if I recall.
If it were true, obviously it would be of great interest
Yes. Being on the front page of the Irish Times is an honour I dreamed not of, I can assure you. But I know I never met him. Otto?
How would I even know? No one could tell those ferret faces apart. It's possible, I suppose, but I was in prison most of that year, so I wasn't helping anyone escape anything. I didn't even get out myself until 48.
That should clear that up then. Unless the previous Frau Skorzeny was running an international escape ring. It doesn't sound like her, but anything's possible.
She was safely in the countryside where I'd put her when things started to go bad. As though I would ever have allowed her to put herself in harm's way for what? Some slimy little coward. A man who does his killing by paper pushing isn't any kind of soldier.
I must say, I'm pleasantly surprised that your opinion of Mr. Eichmann coincides so exactly with my own.
Then you can leave. We've only just returned from Spain and want to...
Just a minute. If the opinions of Germans living in Ireland on this unfortunate affair are of such great interest to the British government, perhaps you could come to our party next week.
I wouldn't want to impose.
Please, it will be a relief, for you and for me. Otto has filled the guest list with his usual catalogue of unspeakables.
They're good men, Ilse.
That's the problem. The only thing worse, Marian, than men who explain sports to you is men who explain battles. They imagine their stories are as exciting to hear as they were to live through. It's a continual surprise to me how splendidly dull intelligent men can be when they really put their minds to it. Between them and Mr. Jorge,
A minister's coming?
a minister is invited. So, you see, Mr. Cooper, I'd be quite in your debt, and it would mean there'd be a young person to entertain Marian.
Then I couldn't possibly refuse.
But now I desperately need coffee. Marian, there's a case in the car. Could you send it down to the laundry directly?
I will, yes. Never seen them like that.
You can't expect anything better from a snake like Skorzeny.
They're usually so nice.
Easy when it costs them nothing. Liam said he would wait and speak to us once they'd been and gone.
I hope they don't see him. They won't like it.
But he's so charming, I'm shocked.
I might say the same thing about you.
You might. Don't turn shy on me now. I'm quite used to people here disliking me. Though, since you seem to be fond of an actual Nazi, it's hard not to take that personally.
He warned me about you.
Oh, really? What exactly did he think I was going to do to you?
You can ask him yourself.
Liam! I hope you haven't been poisoning this sweet young girl's mind against me, after all the time we've spent together.
I came down here to help.
And places like this don't make you uncomfortable with your background?
Because we didn't burn this one down. Sorry, but my family were in the Dublin Brigade. Inner city, not many big houses there.
It was your aunt and 3 uncles.
Two uncles and my dad.
You'd think you'd be more of a hellraiser, but maybe it skipped a generation. Or was it the university education that did it? That's where you two met, isn't it? She'd just started and you were leaving.
Why would you know that?
Because you told me. And I like to know things. Parents left school at 9, uncle institutionalised for reasons we don't speak of, and then there's Liam, coming up in the world and ever so fast. A grant for university, a trainee diplomat, engaged to an actual solicitor's daughter.
Liam's a respectable person.
Do you really think so? Respectable people don't wind up working on a major intelligence operation.
Major intelligence? If it was in any way major, you wouldn't have to borrow me, and we wouldn't be talking about it here, unless you're an unforgivably terrible spy.
You know, it was because I like working with you. And the things Skorzeny has done, the people he's helped, we have an obligation to...
There's no we. I thought you were new. Liam said you were new.
Oh, did he? Well, not to worry, I'll catch you up. We're working together now, you and I.
Not exactly. We're doing your ambassador a favour because you were annoying him.
Oh, I annoy everyone.
Nonetheless, he's a decent man, and I agreed to help manage the situation. We're not in the habit of spying on our friends.
How long do you think it would take for this country to learn? Nazis aren't your friends. I want him nailed to a wall.
Jump on him with a sack and abduct him, is it? He escaped the last time you tried that.
He's a murderer.
God, does your government object to murderers now?
Well, that's all in the past now.
You know, at least one of my uncles would disagree, since you brought them up. The fingers on his left hand have never really worked since. And as for ancient history, what are we doing here?
But I know you of all people can't want Ireland to shelter Nazis.
I've told you how many times Otto Skorzeny is not a resident of Ireland, and he's not going to be.
He goes to Spain and enjoys the sun every second month, but he lives here.
No, he doesn't. Anyone who says he does is slandering the Irish people. Somehow I doubt your ambassador wants you to insult a friendly nation.
Friendly? Don't you know what they did? Haven't you seen the pictures?
So we should arrest him and throw away the key because you say so. That's your idea of justice.
I'll see which of the old rats show up at this party of his, and maybe, if you help...
This is a small town. I don't want anyone talking about her, any more than they will be, the way she's...
Oh, it's lipstick. She gave it to me.
I know she did.
They like me to look a certain, and I like it too. So is Spanish lipstick especially sinful?
I don't see why you have to dress up for anyone.
Except you, of course. Don't worry, I promise we'll be discreet. But, Marian, if you can help us catch him...
We need to find something he's done wrong first.
He's a Nazi. He was a Nazi, and he's still a Nazi.
Like half of Germany was. You can't put them all in prison.
And you didn't see us trying to arrest the men who burned down Cork 20 years later.
That is not the same.
Dead is dead. Or do they not mention that when they talk about the Empire? What's left of it? You think it's a coincidence everyone kicks you out at the first opportunity?
No, I think that after we've done the hard work of building a country and educating people, they get delusions. They think it's easy. And then they welcome Nazis like they're normal people, when we're the ones who fought them, which is more than I can say for...
And how many people could our army have saved with all the weapons and planes and bombs it didn't have? The war's over and you already won it the first time.
Skorzeny was one of them. One of the people who did... Do you know how many died?
Of course.
So you're going to help me. Liam's just starting a fight with me for the fun of it.
What do you want me to do?
For now, just keep an eye on who he's seeing, who he's writing to.
That's all.
She's not a spy, she's an asset. I don't want you crawling around any cellars, no bright ideas. I'll be in touch ahead of the party, but right now, we should go. Liam's showing me some sights, aren't you?
I said I would take you to a pub. It's not the same as...
Let me enjoy it. You're the only man in Ireland who'll talk to me for more than 5 minutes.
Well, you're a really terrible diplomat.
But...
Oh, did you have more questions?
I'm sure she doesn't want to waste our time.
I just wanted to talk to you about... Never mind.
Act 1, Scene 5, 1969, Martinstown House.
You haven't told me about your young man.
He's not that young.
Old enough to know what he's doing, but young enough he still has the energy to do it, I hope.
It would be a bad sign if I didn't say yes.
When they run out of energy, you do find yourself wondering what the point of them is. At least I do.
You've always found men to be tedious.
When they're talking, yes. At least most of them have the decency not to notice when you hide behind a deeply interested expression. I'm glad it's not the one from before. He wouldn't have done at all.
He wasn't always bad to me.
He gave you just enough to keep you from bolting for greener pastures. For a while, at least. He could have gone far.
Yes, he could have.
And it was helpful for us to have that connection, even that very junior connection in the Foreign Service at the time.
You knew he was...
Monitoring us, spying on us even, through you. We'd worked that out.
And you didn't mind that I was opening your post and planning guest lists and helping draft residency applications for you.
Why would we mind when we knew what you would say?
That's not...
It's not as though you could have stumbled over anything dangerous. I was always very clear to Otto that whatever wild schemes he got involved in, I didn't want to know about them, and neither should you. You were too valuable an asset for that.
Because I'd tell Liam about...
And don't forget Mr. Cooper, the incredibly subtle representative of Her Majesty's government.
Because I'd tell them all such lovely stories about you.
All of which were true. Were we anything but kind to you?
That rather depends on the motive.
Can you blame us? Every newspaper hack in the world was finding a new plot to put Otto at the heart of. Reminding the powers that be that we were actually human people, one of whom suffered from headaches, seemed worth it to me.
So that's why you both took such a shine to me. What good did it even do you?
Well, after we said goodbye to Mr. Cooper, we weren't bothered by another in the dreary succession of chinless British embassy mediocrities for at least 9, maybe 10 months, so it was a relief to be spared that. It would have been more useful with the Irish, of course, but still. Small blessings.
Otto's wild schemes.
I found that it's good to cultivate the habit of only believing half of what he says. You know, being Evita's bodyguard or spying for Mossad or...
Mossad?
I know how it sounds.
Insane. Insane is how it sounds.
Perhaps he really did work with them. Or perhaps he just made up a story that he did. Either way, it was because he was bored. If we'd been able to settle here, He would have had the sheep farming to distract him, at least for a while.
When he wasn't scaring Liam to death.
Well, he never liked him for you.
Act 1, Scene 6, 1960. The Gatehouse, the day of the party.
He should be here by now. He's not been in once this week when I called him, but he did say it'll be fine. He'll come and it'll be fine. So long as
What?
you don't say, we just won't tell him. He doesn't need to know where you've been or what you've done or imagined happened. We just have to ask the question like it's not important.
Right.
You have to trust me, Deirdre, because you don't have anyone else, and I'm on your side.
And you don't want me here when Dad gets back either, because that might mean having an awkward conversation.
I won't let him send you back there. I promised, and I won't. The way they treated you, anyone could convince themselves of anything after that.
I just told myself a story, is that it?
I know you think it was just a game he used to play. It wasn't real. You have to stop thinking it was. It's hurting you.
If you think I'm just a liar, why do this at all?
You're not well. You're sick. Being beaten down for so long has twisted you, and I'm not. It's not going to happen again.
You're so sure.
Look, asking Liam is the only way to get a passport in time, and
Just let me go. Why do I even need a...
you are not moving to England for the rest of your life without even a bit of paper to say who you are.
People do it all the time.
People who have families to go back to and references, and as far as anyone here knows, you vanished and never even finished school. So
Right.
Liam's done it before. He told me his first job was in the passport office. He helped arrange passports for tiny little babies going to America to be adopted, so it'll be fine. Just try to seem normal.
Where were you all day?
Helping with the party. She had to go into Dublin to get a new pair of stockings or something, so she left me to make sure the wine and the food and everything else was ready. But I can't really complain. She did buy me a dress for tonight.
Why?
She wants me to make an impression on Liam's new best friend. I have to look, I don't know, fancy for him, fix my face before the party.
You can sit in front of the mirror for as long as you like. It's not going to change.
Thanks. Because I wasn't nervous already going to an event with all their friends and people.
I like your lipstick at least.
Liam hates it. Me attracting attention. He doesn't like people looking at us.
Did she give you that too?
Yeah. It's Spanish lipstick, which makes it even worse apparently. But every other woman there will be the same, so I don't get why it's such a problem.
Well, if it helps, I know I'm overcome with lust.
You're here, finally.
I'm sorry I'm late. Are you that worried about the party?
It's not that. It'll be fine, I know that.
Yeah, I will. Put a smile on and you'll walk it. I keep telling her, but she never believes me.
Sorry, this is Deirdre.
Hello, Deirdre.
My cousin. You just never met because she was away, but she's back for a little while and
it's nice to meet you finally. So, what stories do you have that Marian wouldn't want you to tell me?
I can think of one or two.
But now she...
Are you in Chicago then with Eamon?
Yes. Yes, he lives next door.
But he didn't come back with you?
No, he's very busy.
That's a shame. And with your dad traveling, so you'll miss him too.
Well,
They didn't see you on your way in.
No, that's for the best, isn't it? Though I'm curious to see if the minister comes. Are you going too? Oh, no, you don't look.
I'm not dressed up.
Neither am I. They've taken against me, so I can't go. I'll have to wait for Marian to tell me about it.
No.
It's why it's better no one sees him. The last thing I want is some kind of scene or for someone to ask why you're here. And
You'd think she was ashamed of me.
the thing is, we actually do need a favour. Deirdre here, she lost her passport.
How did that happen?
I don't know. That's why it's lost.
And we need to get her a new one before she goes back to America. And I thought you could...
Wait a second.
What?
It's not as simple as... It'll have a stamp or something in it from the government, and we can't fake that. They'll send her back or arrest her or...
Don't be so... It'll be fine. Just like when you did it before.
For babies, Marian, young children, it's not the same thing at all. They'll take one look at her.
And what?
What's really going on here?
I wasn't in Chicago. That's what my dad told people, but
So where exactly were you?
It doesn't matter. What matters is
Are you cracked? Of course it matters.
it's just a passport. We don't have to know about
Where was she?
It doesn't matter.
Then why are you hiding it? You know it matters. Did she get into trouble? Is that where she's been, in one of the homes?
no, no, I wasn't in trouble. That's not what happened. I was in a laundry with the sisters.
And how exactly did that happy accident come to pass?
It's not important.
Well, what do you know about what's important? When did she show up?
A few days ago,
You let her sleep here?
of course, she needed help after.
I escaped from the...
Oh, please, don't pretend you're in some prison. You were hidden away for your own good, not...
Liam, look at her. Look at her hair. Look at her hands. Does she look protected to you?
Who cares? What were you even thinking being alone with her? Are you not ashamed?
What was I supposed to do? Throw her out to sleep in the fields?
Yes.
Liam!
Have you called the guards or the priest, someone to bring her back?
No, I'm helping her to get to England. I'm not gonna.
Yes, you are. We can have it all smoothed over and know these things happen in the most respectable families. No one has to know.
I'm not sending her back to be.
You should. Do you have any idea what people will say about you? Sleeping under the same roof as her, helping her, when she's been...
No one knows she's here, and I'm not important, so no one will care.
You'll be disgraced, and you know it.
Since I got here, I haven't taken a step outside. I haven't made a sound. I've barely breathed. I'm finally the way they wanted.
You're the only one I've told.
Bloody well hope so. We can't just wait for someone to find you. The things people will say.
I'm not throwing her out.
Why not? What's the point in sugarcoating it? People will find out, and they'll say you're as bad. And do you even know what she did?
I don't care. I don't care if she's mad or bad or delusional. They hurt her, and there's no excuse for it.
Grow up. She was sent to a laundry. That means she was caught. People will find out one way or another, so you have to.
So you understand, if you take me back there, I'll throw myself out of the car on the way, or uncover an electric wire, or find a gas oven. They can bury me in the yard with all the others.
She's a liar. She'd say anything, tell you anything if it meant she got away. What sob story did she spin for you?
Nothing. She did. It was nonsense.
Don't tell me. A bad man held her down and made her do things she didn't want to do, is it? Things she would never, not in a million years, do by herself. It's not that she's some dirty little slut without a brain in her head.
It was Eamon. It was her brother, Liam. She says it was her brother.
Please. No one will believe that.
He kept saying how grown up I'd looked.
Or maybe you just thought no one would blame you if you said it was him instead of who it really was. Marian, you're too smart to fall for a fairy story like that, as though it was something that could actually happen.
Of course I am.
You know it's true. You know I'm not lying. You know he used to...
See, she just wants your attention.
She's not well, that's all. Deirdre, you can't keep saying things like...
That's why the laundry is the best place for her. She has to go back tonight. You should never have let her in.
Look at her. Her hands, her hair. Look at what they did to her.
I'll call them and they can pick her up and...
No.
She's lying to you. You know she is. You know you can't trust a word out of her lying mouth. She can't help it. It's who she is. So why?
Because I know I'm right. So you can stop trying to change my mind.
You don't know anything. I'll call them tonight while you're at the party. She'll be gone by the time you get back. You won't have to...
No, don't. Please. I'll get on my knees for you.
Of course you would.
I'll do anything you want if you just...
Telling a lie isn't a crime. She's staying.
Don't do this. You have no idea. If anyone finds out...
Well, what? How can you be so afraid? You, your family, they're the bravest people we know. They stood up against armies and guns and priests and...
My family have nothing to do with this. They're decent people.
Your dad shot a man 4 times in the head and he's not sorry.
But he's respectable. He's not some... You think they went out there and they got themselves shot for the likes of her?
Who else did they risk it for?
The people who matter, who contribute, not useless ones like her who don't have the sense to restrain themselves, to hide what they... Why would I lift a finger for her?
I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt, but I was coming to pick Marian up and I heard you. from halfway down the drive. You might want to keep it down.
I want is a piece of paper.
Use every single person you have to get it. Marian, she's a parasite. She'll ruin us.
I don't know who else I can ask.
Good. Then in a week or so, you'll come to her senses and send her back and...
You're not going to drag a scared woman back somewhere she doesn't want to go. You're not going to do that, mate.
What else are we supposed to do? Have you any idea what people would say about me if
They knew. Yeah, I do. But I'm not one of them, all right?
Nothing needs to be done in a hurry. I'll keep her hidden, I promise. It's been days and you two are the only ones who know about her, and he wouldn't if you hadn't been shouting.
Look, we can talk it all over once this bloody party's finished. There's no point in starting a scandal right now when they have so many people coming up the drive right past here. But Liam, you should go. Don't want to arouse suspicions. You can work it out later.
This isn't anything to do with you.
Look, mate, you're not wrong. Call it a favour.
We're now finished talking about this.
Yes, we are. I have nothing to do with this.
He'd drop me down a hole if he could.
He's afraid of you. He's not afraid of anything but you.
Would he call them anyway?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so. But he doesn't always think straight when he's... Deirdre, when I leave for the party, you need to lock the doors and keep all the lights off. And don't answer the door or the phone, just in case. I don't think he would, but...
Well, he won't. He doesn't want the attention. Can't risk it.
Will, I mean, Mr. Cooper.
Will is allowed, really. Are you all right? Both of you, after that?
We're fine. And you're early, I wasn't expecting...
I suppose I was excited about tonight.
Right. Would you mind waiting outside while I'm not ready?
You look ready.
I'm really not. And I need to talk to Deirdre.
Of course. Don't be long.
Who is he?
Doesn't matter. I promised to get you out and I meant it.
How?
Liam isn't the only person I can ask.
Act 1, Scene 7, 1969, Martinstown House.
Do you know why we didn't approve?
I think I figured it out eventually.
People can't help how they're made, I know that. He didn't choose it. But that didn't make it any less distasteful to see him use you as a human shield, and you not realizing, thinking you were loved and cared for.
He did take care of me for a while.
Yes. Always so very careful to find the things you were doing wrong and loudly correct them. That way no one would ever look too closely at him.
Didn't fully know himself.
And of course, neither did you.
Not then, anyway. I still had a lot to learn.
Act 1, Scene 8.
You know, in there, the old ones, the ones who never left, they cry when the nuns get sick. Nuns who beat them with hot irons and kept them on their knees in the cold, who made them work when they were sick and trembling and dying, who wouldn't give them medicine or warmth or food or a kind word. The old ones cry when they die. They're afraid to go outside, to meet someone's eyes, afraid of being looked at.
I never thought he'd be that weak.
I don't think it's weakness. It's how you survive it.
You are never going back there, you understand? Never. Never, never, never.
Act 2, Scene 1, 1960. After the party, the grounds of Martinstown House.
It almost wasn't a tragedy.
Almost?
The champagne was warm and Irish beer is always a disappointment, but everyone was getting along charmingly until Otto decided to get nostalgic.
Can't help it if people are squeamish.
Not everyone shares your enthusiasm for tales of blowing men in half at the ribs with hand grenades. And you've confirmed Mr. Cooper's terrible opinion of us.
Oh, not at all, I assure you. Everyone's nostalgic for something.
If you're not careful, I'll start liking you. That ghoulish interlude aside, I hope we didn't disappoint too much.
I've never met people like that before.
Up, you never will again.
It really was almost a success.
But only almost.
Well, our new friends wanted to hear about the Battle of the Bulge and rescuing Mussolini, and our old friends cooperated by refusing to talk about anything else. And the champagne was warm.
I am sorry about that.
You tried. You really did, I noticed.
It's a lovely problem to have.
I prefer lovely problems. I've had my fill of real ones. The point is to forget. Enjoy being somewhere none of it happened.
We aren't monsters. Disappointing though it may be, we enjoy the peace.
Colonel, I don't want to drag up an old war. I was just passing on a message before.
I suppose you're too young to have an old wound.
I spent the entire 6 years in boarding school, and my family were in Kenya, so no, we don't have any stories because we contributed a net total of not very much.
But really, who wants to remember it all? Otto may love to tell his tall tales, but that's not the same as wanting any of it back. And he only barely managed a hang glider anyway.
Ilsa.
I don't mean to play down your escapades. You were very brave, darling, and people love to talk about it, but you and I had very different wars. I don't like to remember mine.
No.
But do you want to forget?
No one held a gun to my head, and I have nothing to be ashamed of, so...
I only meant...
He was a soldier. He had no part in the persecutions. You should show him the rest of the gardens before it gets properly dark, Marian. Make sure he doesn't miss anything.
Good night.
Nice.
It is different here, you know.
Because of the war we didn't fight.
You certainly kept well out of it. Built your own... Whatever. Who am I to judge?
You're dying to, I can tell. You think we should have thrown ourselves into the war as what? Useful cannon fodder? How many millions exactly do you think would have been saved?
Well, none of that means welcoming Nazis like they're normal people. You can still do what's right.
That's what you'd do.
I'd like to think so. He isn't innocent. He helped Nasser crush the rebellion in Egypt. He ran arms to the Algerians.
So the Algerians should just lie back and accept being governed by France, is it?
Oh, did you hear that from Liam? He has some glorious rants on that subject.
No, I thought it all up by my very self.
Sorry. The real reason I'm here is there are rumours that he plans to free Eichmann from the Israelis.
There's no way that's true.
So you don't want Eichmann to walk free?
He wouldn't do it. I've heard how he talks. He despises the people who were involved in
The murders?
half the people who came tonight are English. The ones who retired here after their time in the army, I'm sure you noticed. They talk an awful lot about how terrible the war was, but they get on better with the Skorzenys than they do with any of the Irish people they happen to meet.
They've really taken you under their wing, haven't they?
They wanted someone with a legal background to help with the residency application. I had the degree, nothing to do, and I could type.
Yeah, that's why. I do admire your patience with all these rotten foreigners ruining your life. Like you don't have enough problems.
Well, despite your best efforts, you're the only one who isn't ruining things.
I mustn't be trying hard enough.
Oh, you're annoying in exactly the way Liam said, but not more than that.
He wants you to abandon your cousin.
Drag her back to the nuns by the hair if necessary. I'm sorry I wasn't more help tonight. I'm not used to these kind of things anyway, and...
Oh, you're right. You were useless. Everyone hated you. It was like talking to a log. And to think they wanted you to attract me.
They never said that, and I'm not trying to tease you or whatever you're thinking.
Pity. And I think you've missed my point, which is that you don't need to.
He kisses her.
You know, a week ago coming to this party with you is what would have scared me. having to pretend to be that kind of person.
Have a little more faith. You did well. You charmed the unspeakables. You handled Liam's temper. You didn't back down on protecting your cousin.
She's been there for years. I never thought, I didn't even suspect what was happening to her. And you think it's letting the Skorzeny's stay that makes us bad, but
I don't think you're bad. Well, I don't think you're bad. It's a bit gothic horror, locking her up in a nunnery and throwing away the key.
Liam thinks she deserves it. Of course, he would never do anything anyone might think is wrong.
And he works so very hard at it, too. Do you think a decent man would give a fuck what lipstick you wore?
Long pause. Marian kisses him.
Let me take you to the garden.
Act 2, Scene 2, 1969, Martinstown House.
The people who bought it have very impressive plans. Weddings, among other things. I think I said the word strawberry gothic by Decimus Bruton and they were seduced.
But it does sound like an expensive dessert.
When we bought it, it was just a house. A house no one wanted because of the associations, I suppose.
You mean that the Duke of Leinster built an entire massive house so he had somewhere to fuck his mistress away from prying eyes? Oh, the Colonel told me. He was almost proud of it.
Of course he did, though I imagined he wasn't quite so crude.
In his head he was.
Naturally. Anyway, I suppose the questionably solvent middle classes needed places to celebrate their love everywhere. The walled garden will do very well now that the roses are fully grown.
Do for what?
For the ceremonies or the photos or whatever else it is that they're planning. You could even be one of the first if you wanted.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
It's a very pretty spot.
Yes, it certainly is.
But
It wouldn't be. I don't want some big occasion. I have no family left to come anyway, so best not really.
what happened to your Liam in the end?
Nothing.
But you wince when you talk about him.
All right. For a long time, nothing happened. We ended it and separated, and he walked around in this bubble. No one could touch him. No one could talk to him. I don't know who he was afraid would get hurt, but then his father died. And 3 weeks later, he was arrested in the park, late at night. No one would say why, but it wasn't hard to guess.
Like I said, they can't help it.
Well, his family had him put away, in a hospital, for his own good.
I hope you haven't been visiting him.
To say what? I'm so glad I was just smart enough not to marry you and not smart enough to see how it was for you.
If you got sucked into helping him, he'd only drag you down with him. Men always do.
His mother visits every month because she loves him. He must have been so afraid all the time. And he was right to be.
Is it so wrong for a man to be afraid? You accept it for yourself without question, but for him it's just too unfair. If there's one person who can justify saving herself, it's a little girl who was interfered with from the age of 9. He would never have pitied you.
I know that.
Besides, you had quite enough to deal with. You can see that now you're out the other side.
Act 2, Scene 3, 1960, The Gardens of Martinstown House.
So this is the famous garden.
They used to grow carrots out there, but she wanted roses.
Well, carrot beds wouldn't have been very comfortable for what we were doing, now would they? She did us a favour.
I don't think it's what she had in mind.
I should send her a thank you note. The stories weren't as boring as you thought, the warm champagne was exquisite, and the woman was...
She didn't make me do anything I didn't want to, so we both understand what happened.
But you do know what I like to hear. You are all right.
I thought it would be more awkward.
Seem to get the hang of things quickly enough.
Do you mind that? Liam never liked that I...
Well, of course not. Does he have even the first clue of what to do with you? His type never do.
Type?
Oh, I'm not going to get into the kind of things boys at boarding schools do. That would really corrupt you.
He never went to.
It's not only in, and some of them never grow out of it. As far as I'm concerned, the only sin is to not enjoy it.
Neither of us are devout, if that's what... He cares what people think of him, of us. You should understand. Imagine if anyone here mattered to you.
Oh, but I don't need anyone to think I'm perfect.
Good, because you're not. You're just putting on a different show.
Yes, but having a deviant reputation is a lot more fun.
Oh, is that why you want everyone to know you tracked down a dangerous Nazi all on your lonesome?
Well, now that you mention it,
Of course.
you don't want any of the credit?
So I can what? Climb a ladder in the British Foreign Service? No. And I don't think I believe he did those things.
You're not sweet on him too, are you?
The Colonel? No, he's so old.
He likes you.
He likes any woman who smiles at him. It doesn't...
Then why are you here? That's the part I can't work out. You could have easily done other things.
My uncle sort of belongs to the estate, inherited the position from his father, and he suggested it. It was only supposed to be temporary until we got married, but Liam keeps putting it off, and now...
Now you don't know if you want to go through with it.
Not just because of what we... There's the way he is with Deirdre, and he seems to talk to you more than he does to me.
And what would he think of you if he knew that we...
I don't have a father or a mother to hand me over, so it doesn't matter.
No, you should leave. Get out with your cousin. Don't stick around to be...
And let him chase me out? No. I didn't listen to him when I was going to college, not when it really mattered, and I'm not going to start now.
So when he said law wasn't suitable, that it was for men, you said...
Yes, Liam, and I kept going anyway. I said it was for my father, the great solicitor, and talked all kinds of convincing sounding gruff until he couldn't argue with me anymore.
Was it?
No, he wouldn't have approved either, but so what? Maybe I only did it because everyone said I shouldn't, and Liam used to feel safe.
Especially when he doesn't see you. I'd never have caught your eye if he did.
Oh, you were trying to catch my eye the entire time. You know perfectly well you were.
Then it worked. Lucky me.
They kiss.
I need you to help me.
Whatever did you have in mind?
You're the only one who can.
Well, then tell me what it is you want.
It's about Deirdre.
Ah,
Liam won't help me with the passport, and I have to get her out before her father comes back, because if he finds her... But you could write her a letter on headed embassy paper or something, and then if anyone did stop her...
they'd call the embassy and ask why I was writing letters of transit for Irish women who looked like they'd escaped a prison camp. Helping out runaways wouldn't look good for us, now would it?
So you won't lift a finger to...
If my name gets mentioned, they'll think I'm the one responsible for the whole sorry mess in the first place. I don't need anyone thinking I have an Irish bastard stashed away somewhere.
Do you feel clever thinking of that?
Well, I always feel clever. And I have to look after myself.
Of course you do.
Don't... Look, this isn't my problem.
Even if the Colonel is so terrible, if he did such awful things, why does it have to be you who catches him? Why not do the thing properly?
He's a murderer!
You lived in Kenya, you said? Do you think the English ever murdered anyone out there? Or did everyone just roll over and say, great, let's have loads of white people running things?
Is ancient history what you really want to talk about?
It's not history yet. You're still there.
Now? Maybe his hands are clean, but the ones he helped escape, they slaughtered people in their millions. Children and grandfathers and women eradicated for the crime of existing. And he sent them off for a nice South American retirement.
But you don't know that, do you? If you knew that, and if you could prove it, you'd send a formal letter to your government or a complaint, and there'd never be a chance of them giving him residency.
When they have an opportunity to piss us off with almost no effort.
I'm sorry that needing evidence is bad for your career, but...
That's not the only reason to do it.
No one will be more alive because you caught him. No one will be saved. But if you help me...
I both can't and won't. So you should stop asking.
You know it's the right thing to do.
Maybe it is. But there are much, much more enjoyable things we could be doing. Come on. It's not like Liam ever kisses you anywhere someone might see. Or where they wouldn't.
They kiss.
Am I coming home with you?
You have to be quiet.
He leads her off by the hand. Act 2, Scene 4, 1969, Martinstown House.
The ring on your finger isn't from the Englishman, I assume?
No.
Did you ever sleep with him or just pant in his general direction and hope he'd notice?
It wasn't that obvious.
Oh, my dear girl. I'm glad you did. Charming men must always be encouraged or they might stop.
I did see him for a while on and off after. But then he was sent to South Africa.
And to both your surprise, your heart was totally unbroken.
Yes, but why I was seeing him? That and
the sex, yes. Did he know that?
I never said. I got the feeling he might have taken it personally.
As you would if the positions were reversed.
He still sends me flowers from time to time. An entire bouquet of roses when Bernadette Devlin was elected.
And what did you send him?
Shamrocks. Whenever he's moved on to yet another ungrateful little former colony, I don't think he gets the joke.
People do get stuck on each other. It's fashionable to deny it, but they do. A hook sinks in somewhere vital and never comes loose.
I'm not sorry.
Why would you be? He had the look of a desk warmer, a simple man for simple tasks. If you were going to uproot your entire life, you had to expect more than that. The sad truth of it is most men, upon real close inspection, turn out to be exactly who they seem to be.
And they all feel kind of flat once you realise.
It's not fair to expect more from anyone.
And when they do surprise you, it's so rarely for a good reason.
People don't hide things they can be proud of. There's not 1 in 10,000 will stand up when there's nothing in it for them.
The Colonel saved you when you were...
When my uncle realized that Hitler had to be stopped, yes, 10 years too late at least. After 10 years running his banks and serving in his government, it finally sank in. And when the plot was discovered, Otto stepped in, of course, but I was the something in it for him. He made sure we didn't get a bullet in the brain because he's loyal. In his head, there was no contradiction between saving his friends and serving the Führer, who wanted us dead, and he never changes his mind.
But neither do you.
Yes, but then I so rarely have a cause. It's not as though women are any less disappointing in the end. Best to look after yourself and rely on people living down to your expectations.
Act 2, Scene 5, 1960, The Gatehouse.
So he's stopping in on his morning walk. He'll be in a good mood. But don't say anything strange.
Strange like what?
You know what. Liam won't even speak to me now after you. But Will, he has all the time in the world for it.
Marian, do you have that letter for me?
Yes, I do. Just a second.
My wife is furious at me for taking so long to get a letter drafted.
I'm sure she isn't.
She has a very polite way of being furious, but it's there. I think it's because she never played sports.
Marian reads from a piece of paper.
It was reported that I met Eichmann in Austria and helped him to escape. These two assertions are untrue. I never had anything to do with persecution of the Jews. Every publication of this kind, now and in the future, in the press, in the newspapers, in radio or television, will be prosecuted by all means and with all the possibilities the law gives me. I have instructed my lawyer to follow all these cases of slander. I spoke to your solicitor and I'll send him a copy so he's prepared.
No, I never understood why they let those dismal squirrels run so much of everything, spending all their time totting up ugly numbers, or whatever it was they did all day. I was glad not to know. It was bad enough being forced to talk to them like they were people. This is your cousin, I think.
Yes, Deirdre, this is the Colonel.
We moved to Chicago before we settled here. Your father had stories.
I'm sure he did.
I can't ever go, of course. I have a great black mark against my name. The Americans never forgive anyone who beats them for 2 minutes in a row. Do you really like it there?
I might, if I'd ever been. He lied to you. He lied to everyone.
We were hoping we could get your advice. In fact, you're the only person who can help us with this.
A very serious face. Is your young man upset with you?
No, this isn't.
He should be. Dangling around with another man.
But you wanted me to.
Be charming. But there's some distance between being charming and... Still, best to get that kind of thing out of your system now. It will give you a very good idea of what you can't expect from your husband, if you do insist on tying yourself to him.
I told her not to.
When wise people agree, you should listen.
It wasn't about that, though. It's about... Deirdre, tell him where you really were.
In a laundry.
She couldn't leave. Her dad put her there, handed her over to the nuns for correction.
God's name, why?
It doesn't matter.
It does. You know it does.
No, it doesn't. What matters is if he comes back and finds her here, he'll force her back there, if not worse, and...
You don't want that to happen.
She'll die. I think she'll... It's a terrible place.
I have a very high standard for terrible places. What do they do to you exactly?
We work. When we're sick, when we're dying, when we watched our children be taken away, when we watched our fathers abandon us. The work pays off your sin, you see, frees you of it, so you work and you pray. Kneel on the stone floor and pray until your knees are bloody. And if you fight back, if you complain, if you ever look like you might disobey...
Are they going to kill you?
They won't care if they do.
There's no medicine, no care taken when they're sick, and they do. Of course they do.
The ones who die are just buried in the yard. One big hole altogether, so you can't tell the difference.
See. How did you get out?
I refused to move. Sat on a step and wouldn't be dragged off it. I kicked and I bit and I scratched, and eventually they got tired of hitting me and left me there. And then I ran.
When I broke out of prison, at least I had men with guns waiting for me. You weren't afraid?
Of course I was. It just didn't matter.
And if you go back there, you'll die.
I'm not making threats. It's just what would happen. I'll find a way, and if I can't find one, I'll make one.
I think we understand each other very well. But why would your father...
She doesn't want you to know. She doesn't want me to talk about it.
You know what happened to the women in Germany at the end of the war? There's nothing I wouldn't believe.
Well, then it doesn't matter.
What is it that you want from me?
I have friends in Birmingham. It's all arranged. She can stay with them, go to the nursing school there, and that pays. So she'll be set up. But once she's gone, she won't ever be able to come back here. And I haven't been able to get her any papers. I tried, but Liam won't help. And I thought maybe you might know.
Some kind of criminal mastermind.
No, of course not.
Well, that is disappointing. What's the point of being the most dangerous man in Europe if people think I'm just another businessman?
Will, Mr. Cooper from the embassy, he said he told me you've helped people, refugees, and I thought you might know.
Helped my friends, my brothers. Not a girl from the side of the road with peculiar hair.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, that's a matter of opinion, it seems.
She was just confused, or she wanted attention, or misunderstood something.
Oh, well then, of course I'll break the law to help her.
I don't know who else to ask. If I could just sort the papers, but the longer she's here, if her dad comes back before...
It could all get very ugly. Papers are such a small thing, but we are not living in the Wild West. Your Liam will do nothing.
No. And if I take her to the passport office in Dublin, he'll find out she was there. I know he will, and he'll be so angry. He might call the guards again.
The police have been involved.
They called to the house a few days ago with the priest.
I lied to them, but they could always come back.
One little runaway. They mustn't have any real problems. I've been getting bored since Egypt. Outwitting the Irish police is a little beneath me, but we have to take our pleasures where we find them.
You'll do it.
She can come with us to Madrid. We're going back sooner than planned anyway. I'll take you as my companion, and no one will question it. And then my wife will, oh so charitably, take you to the Irish embassy, and they can issue replacement papers for the ones you've lost. And from there to Birmingham is easy, if you don't mind slow trains. Ilse will have to see if she can make you look normal. No one believe I'd waste my time on you like this.
So I never have to go back. I need to. Thank you.
I know I shouldn't have asked. If there was anyone else.
But there wasn't. Marian, I completely understand. Have I set you at ease?
Thank you. I needed to help her, but I couldn't find a way.
I should tell you, I have no particular objection to the Irish system. The laundries and asylums and so on, they fill a social function. It's quite proper for every country to decide what will and will not be tolerated within its borders. And who are we to complain when we're begging to stay? If the Irish don't approve of certain customs or habits or people, they should be entirely up to them. Now, I'd have men who treated women shamefully, horsewhipped in the public square, so they learn to change their ways. But that's the law I wish to live under. I'll talk to Ilse, and if she approves, we'll take her away.
As a companion.
It's not the first time. No one will be surprised.
It's just, I don't think Deirdre, she's not in any state to be, if that's what you expect, I don't think she can, you might be disappointed.
What do you think I expect?
I don't know.
I think you do.
She won't, she's not able for that. But if you still want, if there's something you must have to, I don't think you must have anything. And I think if I offered to take you to bed, you might say yes. Or no.
No.
But it wouldn't make you do anything you weren't already going to do or willing to do, and it wouldn't stop you from changing your mind either, not for a second.
Not even if I'd promised. The sky wouldn't fall in just because I'd broken my word.
Well then, if it's all the same to you, I'd rather not.
Bring her up to the house tomorrow. Ilse will want to see her before we go. And post that letter.
Of course.
It will be quite something when you're all grown up.
Thank you. I think.
Act 2, Scene 6, 1969, Martinstown House.
I didn't sleep with the Colonel, if that's what you...
Oh, I know. We had rules about that kind of thing.
He never said?
I'm sure he didn't. We had to have rules. It was the only way to live with a man like that without chaining him down somewhere. Marriage is really just another form of solitude, two emptinesses occasionally crashing off of each other. I'm sure your mother never told you this.
My mother died when I was 14. She didn't have time to tell me much anything.
So you taught yourself, and look at the success you've become.
That's one word for it.
Employed, married, or soon to be, and not chained to a repressed homosexual or a scandalous relative. What more could you want?
I can think of quite a bit, actually.
Of course you can. You're selfish, like me. It has its uses. Otto now, he had to learn quite quickly that while I may not have many feelings, the ones I do can be quite unmanageable if he's not careful.
I knew about the laundries long before Deirdre showed up. I just never thought about them. They were a fact of life.
Aren't they?
I would never have left her there.
You really believe that? But I assure you, you could have. They disgust me as an institution, but people do need clean clothes, and I like fresh sheets on my bed as much as the next woman.
Then you should wash your own.
If we all did, civilization would never advance. It's back-breaking work, as I am sure you know, but what of it? My uncle was locked away twice, first for trying to kill the Führer and then for not succeeding. And I don't know how many friends were burned to cinders in Dresden and so many other places. There was no one to rescue them, but I am still very happily alive and enjoying all the cheese and wine and silk the world sees fit to give me. So, the laundries and all the rest are still running?
People do need clean clothes.
In its own way, that is a relief. For me, you wouldn't understand.
Of course I understand. I'm not even surprised.
So cynical. Is that why you've set your heart on rescuing the wretched of the earth, one exquisitely worded legal brief after another?
No, I can see why you'd feel that way.
I was very selfish, stupid girl. And I never took the time to know what I should have known. It was all paid for, you know, and that's what my family helped me with. And if I'd let myself know that...
You'd have tried to stop it.
If I'd seen things that clearly, I'd be long dead by now. There's a reason I didn't. Deep down, there's a cool part of you that's always known. People are mostly fools.
All lawyers think that.
You think it protects you, but the truth is it protects them. You tell yourself there's a limit, a ceiling, a law of nature that says a second-rate person with power in their hands can only ever do so much damage, destroy so many lives, because after all, you are so much cleverer than they are. And it's only when it's over, when the world piles the dead up high and comes crying for justice, that's when you'll discover you're glad you were stupid. Glad you can say in your heart that you didn't know, you didn't realize. Believe me, it's a blessing, even if it's a limited one.
But I do know. I've known about it and I sent my cousin off to another country so no one else would. And how many more like her have there been?
Going to say them single-handedly, are you? Guilt can be very productive, rational even in some situation, but that's no reason to risk yourself.
And what did all your enlightened self-interest get you in the end? But a house and a husband you can't keep and aren't sure you even want to, because wanting things isn't for you anymore. It only leads to disappointment.
Open your eyes. You can outmaneuver a fool the same way you would a puddle or a dead dog on the road, but there's nothing to be gained in tearing your heart out. I'm surprised you don't understand yet. You didn't change anything. I did. I told Otto you could rescue your cousin because I felt like it and because it suited me, but nothing changed. You can throw yourself on the machine, Marian, and it will only rip your guts out, and no one will care if you're left mangled, if you're weeping tears of blood. They'll just smile and pass by the same way they do with any other ugly misfortune in the world. I've seen it happen.
Well, I don't see what you see.
Act 2, Scene 7, 1960, Martinstown House. Liam waits.
In the bag, there's an envelope with all the phone numbers for Birmingham and the addresses and money. I think I took out enough to get you started.
Here.
I don't know.
Is this all some sort of a trick so you can take me back? Is that...
No, I promise.
I should. I don't want anything to do with this.
Well, then leave. I don't want you here.
I can't. I was summoned by her.
So that's why you're talking to me now. Would it have been so hard to answer a phone?
Why do you think she was hidden away? She had to be protected from herself. She can't help being what she is.
You think you know every single thing about me, don't you? What would your brave father do to someone who hurt you?
I know exactly what my father would do, but the difference is I'd never make him. I control myself. You didn't just happen to be with a man. No one believes that.
Well, you certainly don't, which is interesting.
I wasn't with him. He made me. I didn't want...
Of course. He had absolutely no reason to think you were receptive. You didn't encourage him at all, no. You get yourself in trouble, and instead of keeping it quiet and dealing with it like a rational person, you tell the whole world. You don't do the smart thing and keep your head down. No, you drag Marian down with you, as though it's her fault you're ruined. She'll have to hide this for the rest of her life, and you're not even ashamed.
You're not worried about me.
I had nowhere else to go.
And whose fault is that? I see you. You are what you are, and nothing, no miracle, no beating is ever going to change you. If you had any common sense, you'd already be gone.
She's leaving today, so you can stop talking about it. You know, I used to think you were such a good man. You didn't love me. You barely even saw me. You never kissed me like you wanted to, but I told myself at least you were good. I didn't have a clue.
It's more than you are.
What would you know about it? Is wanting to be touched from time to time such a fucking sin to you?
It depends on who's doing the touching, doesn't it?
Not in the way you think.
You know, the English ambassador has pulled the plug on the amateur spying operations, so you won't be seeing him again.
And neither will you. Will that satisfy whatever poisonous cancer's growing in your head? He had a story for me as well about you, since you two were such special friends.
He is nothing to me. Nothing.
I told you. This is what they're like when they're crossed. There's nothing else.
I am nothing like... You pretend to be innocent, but you'll destroy everything to get your way. You're a leech, and I have always been exactly what I'm supposed to be.
And you wound up a monster. Look at yourself. You think I'm the bad one compared to you. You think I'm the unforgivable sinner.
Yes. You don't get to decide that. I do. And I'll call you what you are.
Don't talk to her like that.
I'll speak any way I like. She was protected. Think of what would have happened to her if she would have starved. There was no other place for her. The nuns gave her shelter, kept her safe.
Safe? Have you looked at her even once?
All of that is the least she deserves.
Listen to yourself, all of this. If it's goodness, it doesn't need to be protected. It needs to be broken down and ended. How can you be so afraid? Your family, didn't you learn anything from them?
I learned to do what has to be done, no matter how ugly.
What you learned is to make excuses because you're weak.
Maybe Liam's people had the right idea. They just weren't ambitious enough to burn everything down right to the ground. Someday, maybe it'll catch, and I'll come back and I'll dance on the ashes.
My father would be ashamed of you.
Why not? Everyone else is.
That's not true. I'm not.
You think I'm just as much of a liar as the rest of them?
I never said...
You mean you never used that specific word? Is that the same as believing me? Do you see what being good has done to him?
What would you know about how decent people behave?
More than I ever wanted. You've been afraid every day of your life, and you don't even know what there is to be frightened of. I do.
I do.
All this shouting. I hope you're not turning communist, Marian.
No, I hardly... We didn't realize you were here.
In our own house? You really should know, if a man doesn't tell his woman the truth, it's only because he doesn't respect her. And then no one else does either. I keep nothing from Ilse because I don't need to. You understand?
Yes, of course.
I'm only here to say...
That you've somehow persuaded the English ambassador that we are not residents and therefore we can expect to be left in peace.
Yes.
Your people were involved in the struggle, I believe.
Yeah?
You see, perhaps that is why I'm at home here. Your fathers clawed this country out of foreign hands. The English lay a pretty veneer over themselves, but they have no pity. When you fight people like that, such an impossible force, you have to do things you don't like. Winners have the privilege of forgetting.
But if you're on the losing side, you learn to see things from a different angle.
Precisely. Now, if Marian has even some sense, she won't waste any more time on you.
But you would be very foolish to give her up.
Kind of camouflage stops questions before they're asked.
And it's not as though anyone but us knows about her little infatuation. Now, we know there's no laundries for your sort, but there are hospitals and surgeries and amazing things they can do with electricity. I'm told they provide wonderful care of people who embarrass themselves or their families.
They wouldn't. They wouldn't do that to me.
Come now. Yes, they would. They already have.
Liam's uncle was sick. He wasn't.
It's not the same. I've never...
Oh, do you think that makes a difference?
Don't set ourselves up to judge. You must understand that. The English let millions starve. Here, India, Burma. The Americans can't admit they kept slaves, let alone the natives. And the Russians, well, they don't even know what a human being is yet. By comparison, things here are clean.
Those places, they're there to help people, unfortunate people, not kill them.
You've never seen one, or you'd know better.
It's not. They're not the same. We're too poor to do anything else.
Not the same. Of course. Of course. No one is saying they are. But you know we weren't completely wrong about deviants like you. We knew what to do with you. You sucked onto that girl before she really saw you, because you knew that if they saw what you are at the root, they'd find a compassionate place for you with the rest of the parasites. Do I frighten you?
You terrify me.
No.
Then hit me. A man would. Now, I want nothing more than to tend my sheep and live a quiet life. We're taking Deirdre away, and you're going to remove yourself from my land. We need never speak again.
Is there anything else?
You should understand this. You don't want your name tied to Deirdre. Well and good. Neither do we when it comes down to it. We want a residency application that's smooth as cream. No talk, no police, no scandal. Call it mutually assured destruction. We'll take her far away. And when asked for your opinion, you'll tell everyone what fine people we are.
That's not how it works here. They may enjoy annoying little squirts in the embassy, but that doesn't mean they'll ever approve of a murderer.
He'd say he fought for his country. He'd say your family would understand.
They were fighting to build a republic, not to go around locking people up and enslaving them and working them to death.
I know. All Otto's bravery, every bit of it, was for a man who had people dragged out of their homes and murdered. And somehow he can't see how that sullies his cause. The blindness is astonishing. Nevertheless, the stories all about our vast criminal network and evil conspiracies and all that, they're very unhelpful, especially to a man who wants a quiet life.
He seems to enjoy them.
Men can be very, very stupid. It's better to realize that now.
So what do you want?
To keep your mouth shut. We can take this whole messy situation off your hands, and you never discuss us again, except to say how good and kind and generous we are, which Marian will tell you happens to be the truth. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'd say all your problems are over, but they aren't, unless you can become someone else. And even then, there are things people don't forgive.
I've never hurt anyone.
I have. People like you were handed over to be, and I lived.
It's not the same. I never let anyone be.
But you'd have sent her back and not doubted for a moment that it was the right thing to do. There were people who tried to change things, and what do you think happened to them? History is a very impartial butcher. You ought to know that.
I know the history perfectly.
But you can't accept that you're powerless. Once you do, survival will become much less confusing. I do understand wanting to hold on to the thing that protects you. Without Otto, I'd be a dried smear of blood on a wall somewhere.
Marian, that's not what it was.
Yes, no one was going to shoot you.
I cared about.
Of course you did. She makes your life easy. It just doesn't mean you want to make love to her. You should be a lifelong bachelor. There's much less to fake that way.
You've known people like him before.
Yes. One or two of them even lived, though there's no reason why. I didn't save them. You see, Otto can't understand you, but I do. He's never needed safety.
They'll never give you residency.
Perhaps not, but we have to try. You don't just give up, Mr. McGee. You keep trying. You look for solutions. You find a strategy. We've bought your good opinion, and I expect it to be worth the purchase. As for Marian, you're a fool for thinking there's any difference between you when it comes to wanting things. Now I believe Otto has finished packing the car, so time to go. Deirdre?
Yes.
Wait,
Marian hugs Deirdre. Deirdre breaks away.
please don't vanish again.
Why not?
I don't want you to disappear. I want to know where you end up.
You still don't get it. I don't want you to care. I want to forget.
Will you tell me where you are?
Maybe. Probably not.
I need to know. I want to know you're all right.
No, you don't. You want to stop being bothered by me.
Goodbye and good riddance.
Exactly. That's it, exactly. We finally agree on something.
Look, I don't want you to think I'm leaving too. I'm not staying with...
I already said. Good luck. You'll feel better once you've cried about it.
We'll phone from Spain when everything is in hand.
Thank you.
What will you do?
Get away from you. The whole time, you let me think I was wrong to want anything from you. You let me think it was me because it suited you better. Did you even like me?
Yes. In a way.
I did so many things because I thought they were what you wanted, and I was just a prop.
Yes.
I couldn't have faked it.
Yes, you could.
I don't know how you could stomach it.
It's how things are.
Act 2, Scene 8, 1969, Martinstown House.
So, what do you see then? What beautiful, bright future have you in store? There are cities on fire on this island, not 100 miles away, and you think what you and only you know how to fix it.
Not only me, never only me. As many as will help, and there are plenty.
Yes, you can, or all reshape the world to fit your utopian vision of how things could be better. That always ends well.
I let them go. Deirdre ran and Liam hid, and I looked after myself. I did oh so well, and they became ghosts, and they shouldn't have to live that way.
So you'll start a crusade. And after 40 years of achieving nothing, what then?
It comforts you to think it's hopeless, but at least I'd have a stack of exquisitely worded legal briefs to show I tried.
Well then, good luck. Go rescue the downtrodden, tear lumps of flesh off yourself in the process, and then maybe no one will ever be locked up again.
You're mocking the idea because the thought that things could be different, that it all could have been avoided, hurts you too much.
It doesn't. I'm exactly as callous as I seem. I'm alive and really quite glad.
You haven't convinced yourself of that. I don't know why you think you'll convince me. When I told you about Liam's father, his family, I wasn't lying. They really did all those things. They looked at the way things were and decided to build a new country from the foundations up. Make it good, make it better. I might not be happy with it. I might not think they did a good enough job. I might want to tear down the prison they built with sledgehammers and wrecking balls on my own fingernails if needs be, but I am going to take the right lesson, the one they never wanted me to learn. Say I'm powerless. Tell me nothing I do, no change I make will ever affect anything. It's all hopeless, but I still know. I'll always know. There's not a single reason you can't do it twice. And we're going to.
The end.
Well done, everyone. That was brilliant. We're going to be back in 10 minutes for our Q&A. If you've got any thoughts that you're desperate to get off your chest or questions that you would like to ask Maev and or the cast and director, you can start popping those into the chat now. But we'll be back at 7:26 for the Q&A. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.